Silvia Eriksson has been a longtime resident of Costa Rica and a yoga instructor in Montezuma. In this interview, she will tell us what she likes about Costa Rica and about getting a job as a yoga instructor in Costa Rica.
Well, the things I love about Costa Rica primarily are the people here. There's a certain kindness and a sweetness to people and the selflessness that I just didn't have in my culture growing up. Like an open-heartedness that is unconditional, that you don't need to ask for it. Like if you were walking down the street and you needed to use the restroom, you could ask somebody anywhere and they'll offer you, some rice and beans and some coffee and encourage you to stay. And the first couple of years when I was here, I was always surprised just at how easy it was to solve a problem, right? Like if you have a punctured tire, the first person who sees you on the road is just going to stop and want to help you. It was a big learning curve for me because I always was raised with this idea that everything needs to be taken care of right now, right? And the things have to happen immediately and you kind of feel that stress inside. And in Costa Rica, it's not really like that. Sometimes you wish it were a little more like that, but the fact that it isn't it wakes you up to the idea that okay, things can actually take their time. Not everything needs to be happening right now, right? So there's a kind of I guess it goes together well with yoga, like this non-competitiveness. And of course, the nature is what I love about this place. Like one never gets tired of it, and it trains your mind to see it anew all the time because maybe there's not that many places to go. You can't just jump on the subway and go somewhere. You're just here, right? So you're faced with the same things every day, but it's always a little bit different and it keeps you sharp, right? So the beauty around and the beautiful, the green everywhere and the rivers and the times of the year are just slightly different. So that's what I love the most about Costa Rica. Well, in Montezuma, the vibe for me is sort of magical, right? So I've had a lot of existential moments here, just from walking in the nature. And there's all these different small niches within Montezuma. You have one beach that's really big and broad with a lot of jungle and nature. You have another beach that's closer to the road and more people access it. You have the waterfall that's totally different. And I love Montezuma as opposed to other beach towns because it has a small center. So the town center is kind of it has the one bar there where people go, meet and hang out, have a drink, and also all the stores are there. So it has that feeling if you want to go out to town, you can just go. You don't even need to gather your friends. You can just go downtown and you'll find somebody who you know, and it's right there on the beach. And there's artisans who make their own jewelry, and you can find pretty much all types of food. And there is that little community vibe, right? And every Saturday we have a farmer's market, and then you'll see a lot of people, like-minded people get together, health-conscious people who live here, and it's just generally very quiet. It definitely has that peaceful wellness vibe here. Yeah, the living options is something that is more complicated than one would think. One can look on Airbnb and get to know places, and they'll often be, especially during the rainy season, which is also low season, you'll be able to get a good furnished house, with glass windows and air conditioning in some rooms. You could get that in the low season for $600-700 a month. Whereas somebody who lives and works here, like myself, we try to look for something a little cheaper, like $400, $350, and those are the spaces that are limited. So, if you're a tourist who wants to come here and stay and volunteer for 6 months, it might be a good idea to get on Facebook, get on the Montezuma Facebook page, and maybe put yourself out there, who has a house to rent, because on Airbnb and such, you'll find places who need, looking after, but they do charge a foreigner price. The limited options are in the cheaper housing, because that's where most of the locals will be at. The minimum salary for somebody waitressing is around $3, somewhere there. And then they also get, the work week is rough. It's 6 days a week, usually around 8 to 10 hours a day. So if you have such a budget, it's difficult to be single because you need two parties or to have a roommate perhaps. A lot of people live in their extended family, or the Costa Ricans who live here, they often get land from their families and they might have built a house on it, or they live in like a small house beside the parents, so things stay within the family. But the rent in the suburban places, like a little bit away from Montezuma where I live, you can definitely find a place for maybe $200-300 a month, but that doesn't leave you with a lot of money. So living here, one can't, the normal nice things you have at home, like being able to take a weekend trip somewhere whenever you want, like those things are just a little harder here. One really needs to save. And food as well. So there are markets here you can go to, like on Friday morning there's a farmer's market up in Cobano. I'm not very good at keeping track of how much I spend on food, but you can get away with doing it cheaply. If you buy vegetables and if you go to the butchers to buy your meat, or if you go to the supermarkets out of town, then, and if you don't buy exotic things that are made for expats, like fancy cheeses and cold cuts and stuff like that, you can live moderately with the money you make. And of course, during tourist high season, I consider myself fortunate because I get paid per yoga class, so I get a little bit, above average, maybe an average of like $1,500 a month, and there I can live well, and I can save, I can put away a good amount of money. Because I also know one thing about budgeting, I have to say, is that since I live here, I noticed that I've been frivolous. And you live here, you become thrifty, but in a good way. You don't spend money on unnecessary things because you see that everything is recycled. People will use recycled not as in a way of everybody puts their cans in the right thing. No, but recycled, like people will use the front part of a fan, like a metal fan that's not being used anymore, that's broken, they'll make it into their grill, right? Or people will use their tires to make a potted plant inside. Right? Or people will use there's all kind of like funky inventions which are really cool, which almost ironically, when you go back to the North America or to Europe, you'll see those things sort of like as an innovative, amazing sort of hipster idea, and here is just something that's normal, right? So, and clothes too. You're living on a beach, you don't need a lot of stuff. You don't need shoes. The only thing I really spend money on here is food. Phone is very cheap as well. You can pay $20 a month for a subscription with unlimited internet. So in that way, you don't even need to find a place that has Wi-Fi. If you have a smartphone and you can buy yourself like a chip to put in it, you've got internet. So the budget is, you have to be a little smart about it.
These premium videos are available on Amazon Prime. The links are in the description below.
That's the part that gets a little boring sometimes. Well, I'm a salsa dancer. I love salsa dancing. I met my partner through salsa dancing, and there's just the young culture here is not a dancing culture. It's more like they go surfing or they're into other things, but it's not, the dancing part of it is sort of like died away. There's few people who love to dance. So we've got reggae night on Thursday night. That's really nice. What I really recommend around here is to try, if you've never tried it, even if you're scared of it, is to try surfing. Because the beach that they take you surfing is a beautiful walk. It's half an hour along wild beaches protected by the government as well. And the beach is amazing. Playa Grande, it has about, waist, a little higher than waist deep water. And the instructors are very safe and they really take care of you. And they really help you from scratch. So there's a constant whitewash. It's not a big riptide, and they push you into the wave, and then you can start from there. So I've had a lot of people here with us that do yoga and surf, and those two things go together really well. So surfing is a thing to try. Horseback riding. There's a man here who does conscious horseback riding. He's a horse whisperer, and he takes you up on the hills, in places that you normally would never see. If you were just downtown here or any normal tourist routes, there is a canopy zip line that you can do, which is also a lot of fun, which is up the hill a little bit. So there's like 9 platforms. You can go from platform to platform. There's a boat trip, a day trip to Tortuga Island, actually with my family-in-law, and they take you snorkeling and they'll give you lunch. So those are some of the things you can do. You can rent an ATV, a quad, and travel around in the dirt roads and have some fun. Just be really careful. those are the main activities to do here, aside of course from really long walks. One of my favorite things to do is to walk to the waterfall, which is also a little bit of a climb, and walk to that surf spot. There's also a national park. So we do have our own national park in a town that's about 10 kilometers from here, Cabo Blanco, which is also a really nice long hike, around 4 hours. It is the first protected park, I believe, in Costa Rica, if not all of Latin America, which around 67 years ago, a Danish woman and a Swedish man, they came here and they fought to protect this forest, and which is now the Cabo Blanco National Park. Well, when I first came here, I came here on vacation, and then I decided to stay longer because there was nothing really calling me to go home. So I did get work with, if you want to work here and you're willing, somebody's going to hire you. So either in a hotel reception or, you know, as a tour guide in one of the tour companies. That's sort of, I did most of the jobs that are in town. I wasn't legal to work when I first came here, right? So that's a little bit, you know, if you believe in the politics of supporting a country and paying the taxes, right? I was very young, I didn't think too much about it, but now in retrospect, I believe one has to be kind of conscious about it. You can't get a work permit here if you're not either retired here and you have a fund of money coming from abroad, or you're married or have a child who's born here. And there's some other categories, but it's not very easy to just come and work and live. I've met people who come here and have an online job, right, from back home, and they sit here and work, which of course, I mean, it's really ideal because you're earning money from back home and spending it here. And but I also know a lot of people here in Montezuma, in Santa Teresa, who have like seasonal work in restaurants. I recommend that you take a good year to earn a good amount of money and come here and spend it. That's how I recommend to do it, because you'll just enjoy it much more. And you can volunteer here as well, you know, help. Like in Montezuma, we have a project going on in the school. You can, you know, help teach arts and crafts or dancing or math, help tutor. There's lots of things to do here. You can help the turtle sanctuary or help the Cabo Blanco National Park. So I would suggest one travels like that, because, I mean, money-wise, you won't earn a big amount of money here either. If someone was retiring here, yeah, there would be a lot of community to get involved in. One has to sort of look around. One has to win people's hearts, you know, and show interest for the language. And there is definitely, in Montezuma, you'll easily sort of find your niche, especially if your interests are nature or some new age spirituality or surfing or reggaeton dancing. Well, my relationship with my husband, I suppose, is quite traditional. You know, we met, we were first friends, we knew each other when we were in other relationships, and so for the first couple of years we were acquaintances. And in my case, I wouldn't say our differences are very cultural, right? Even though in some aspects they are, of course, different habits. So, you know, aside from the small differences just from being somebody from the south and the north, in my case, there hasn't been that much. This is a different country. It might be your holiday spot. It might be your temporary sort of finding yourself place, but it's also the home of somebody, right? So if you are thinking of getting in a relationship with somebody here, you have to first, if you think about that person coming home with you, you have to ask the person if that's even in their interest to leave here, because a lot of Costa Ricans don't ever want to leave Costa Rica, which is the case, in my case, in my relationship. But then you have others who want to leave and want to experience something else. But this is a country that is, you know, it's beautiful. People love being here. Friendships here is another thing. I've had myself a couple of heartbreaks of when you know, somebody comes here to live for a while and you create this amazing, solid friendship, and then the person, that phase of their life is over, so they leave again. So in terms of friendships, as somebody who's lived here for a while, like myself, more and more my friends are local people. People who live here, have a family here, you know, my husband's friends, and people who have a business here. So, you know, there's of course like a mix of immigrants here and a mix of people who are from here. And it's important to involve everybody in your friendship. It's important to learn Spanish, to really make friends with people who are here. To not only keep your friends in sort of like the immigrant niche of the town. I've had thoughts about the future, right? About buying a piece of land here, about, you know, creating my family, making it bigger. And, but still, sometimes I feel, in all honesty, like a little homesickness towards my home. So I'm not really sure where it is. If it's going to work, you know, somehow a little bit there and a little bit here. My dream for the future, of course, would be to have my own yoga studio and wellness place, right? So those are more like the thoughts for the future. I haven't really made concrete plans. Like I can't see it so clearly at this point, for sure. But I don't have any problems being here. Well, I came here and I spoke Italian. So learning Spanish was quite easy. I never studied it, I just sort of learned it speaking with friends and the people when I first came here I lived with a Costa Rican family over in Cabuya and nobody spoke English. So I spoke fluent Spanish about 6 months later. So I never studied it formally, but there are really good courses here. I know the people who run them, and I have seen people speak Spanish. Yet again, one has to make friends with people who don't speak English, because a lot of people will answer you in English, or if you only make friends with the foreigners who live here, you'll only be speaking English. So I've seen both. I've seen people learn Spanish real fast, but I've also seen people here for 20 years who don't really speak proper Spanish.
Please visit our best travel gear page on the livingoverseas.tv website. The link is in the description below. When you buy through our link, we may receive a small affiliate commission. There is no added cost for you, and it helps support our channel so that we can keep bringing you free videos.
So yoga for me, along with everything else that is wellness, in Costa Rica, well, especially Montezuma, because this is where I've experienced it. It's a way for people to come and create a very profound and very fast change. So we get people from all walks of life. We get people who have recently gone through a divorce or a change in their work or just really stressful periods, maybe a big loss, something life-shifting. So a lot of people come here when they've sort of met their tipping edge. And I feel like Costa Rica, because of its neutrality and because of its beautiful nature, is very cleansing and very nurturing that way. So you come here, you're in this weather, there's no tension in your muscles because everything is humid and warm and soft. You eat fresh fruit every day. You move yourself through yoga practice and breathing. You go surfing. You walk these long, beautiful walks on the beach to the waterfall. So it kind of keeps you in perspective. Like, you're here now, this is what you're doing. The nature is so close to you, you're in it. The yoga studios don't have mirrors, they don't have walls. And you see people just healing really quickly, and you see their change, their faces changed. They're eating fresh fruit every morning. They use their body, and they're extroverted because they're not in their head so much. There's so much to see. So the wellness business here is really something that is very thriving. And I love it working down here in a drop-in studio because we get every kind of person here. So there's a mixture of people who book to stay here for a week, and there's a mixture of just people who come. Sometimes there's people who come for one class and then they want to stay, drop everything, and stay for a month, right? So you really see that transformation. And that's really one of the magic things about Costa Rica, because I believe that this country has that energy. It has this neutrality, this peacefulness. There's not so much pain in the land here. There's an openness that people experience when they come here and when they practice. Some people come here and they'll drop into one class. One doesn't have to be part of a retreat or anything. You can just show up and they'll fall in love with it and they'll stay for a month, for a week. But I've also seen people who are more restless, right? Who come to Montezuma and they take sort of one look at it. Small town, too small. All there is to do is beach walks and being one with nature. Nah, I'll move on, right? So I've seen that too, for sure. There's sort of like a half-half. But most people who are looking for a healing experience, an experience in nature, and a very quiet experience, this is where to go. So the sound we're hearing right now is a howler monkey. They're very peaceful monkeys. They usually stay up in the trees. They're about this big, black, and they have this guttural sound. Sometimes they make it if they're, mating, or if there's a storm coming, you'll know it because they'll make sounds. If there's an earthquake coming, they'll make the howling sound. When I first came, I thought they were a ghost, so I got scared. But they're really sweet. The positive aspect is the access to fresh food. It's really nice. You can get fresh vegetables and get really nice ones too, at least once a week at the vegetable market. There's a lot of diversity. You can meet all kinds of people from all walks of life here. Things are easy to do. Transportation is easy if you do your research right. You can get from one place to the other real easily. Even though the roads are bumpy, things are connected. People will help you. You'll never really be lost because you can ask anybody. People are trustworthy. So that's definitely. The temperature is one of the big pluses. I come from a place that's overcast most days of the year, so just the water is always warm, so it's just really pleasant. I feel safe here in Montezuma. I've never been a victim to violence or even theft, right? But there has been moments where, there have been reported a few assaults, right? And usually it's not people who live here. It's usually people who might come from, other places, a little more, scarier places in San Jose or somewhere. They'll come here for the weekend. There might be an episode, but recently there's no episodes of it right here in Montezuma. But one has to use their common sense, right? Like I say, the less you have with you is the better. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think about it. To walk here at night is safe, which is not the case in San Jose, so please don't do it in the city. Mm-hmm. But I feel safe here. I know where to ask for help if I feel in danger. I ride a motorbike here, nothing ever happens. The downsides is the infrastructure, the bureaucracy sometimes takes a long time. Social security it's very nice that there is social security, but there's definitely a lack of funds to maintain it at a standard where everybody can get the services they need when they need it. A lot of things are behind, like computer systems in the government, right? So things take a longer time if you need an extract of a paper of yours, or if you need to apply for immigration, right? But I've seen a steady improvement in the last years that I've been here. So every time I renew my immigration, I see the office has upgrades, so there is a goal set and you can move to it. Another one of the downsides about Costa Rica is, for me, a very passionate subject, is sort of the segregation between foreigners and the locals. And it's very sort of obvious at times that there is this inequality, right? I think it's really important that people who move here or consider moving here or profit in any way off of Costa Rica, there is sometimes a balance between a business owner might come and say, okay, I'm doing a lot for the community because I offer jobs, right? But in my point of view, that's not enough. Right, because they're also here and they earn money because the salary, this might be a touchy subject for some people, but they're here, they're earning money, and the salary is lower than it might be somewhere else, right? So you're here in this paradise. Yes, you are giving people opportunity and jobs. Yes, they probably are grateful to you, but the minimum wage is not very high. Like, consider how much you're paying. Consider if you would be able to live $600 a month, if that's what you ethically feel like you should be paying to somebody. If you give them bonuses, help them out in some way, help the school, something. But there's a very sort of almost colonialistic or imperialistic sort of vibe sometimes, and some outright discriminatory comments. People will use languages like "that's so tico," which means it's not really up to standard with something. So those kind of things really get to me here sometimes. And it is hard to integrate into a culture where things are not as square and as perfect as back home. I know it's frustrating, also for myself sometimes, but we're in somebody else's country, right? If we can't handle it, we have to go. the tip that I want to give everybody, especially people who are just coming here on vacation, is to not plan too much ahead of time. Because you might find now there's booking.com apps, there is, you can plan everything razor sharp and have everything organized, but then it happens a lot in Montezuma that people come, they've booked 2 nights, and wow, it's so beautiful. But we have to go somewhere else because we've booked a hotel and we've paid for it already. So I think traveling in Costa Rica, things are, unless you come in like the super high season, like December or April, most other times of the year, you can come and just kind of play it by ear. And I would take it easy. Like, you're coming here to experience the Pura Vida lifestyle, you might as well start, with your own travel planning. Because and things are very easygoing. Like, one doesn't have to book the bus ahead of time. One doesn't have to book the shuttle ahead of time. One doesn't have to book each hotel. It's good to do your research, but to do the research that really counts. Like, what kind of money do I need to bring? What's the exchange rate, right? What kind of bug spray do I need to bring? Those kind of things, right? So if I would think about moving here, I would, if you're a yogi or if you're a wellness person, I would go to a place that sounds cool and go to the local yoga studio, talk to some people, experience it, spend a little bit of time, make some friends. People are always open for new friendships here. And get the vibe for a place, and then you can consider it. And while you're here, you might want to talk to somebody if they know a connection of where you could rent a house, right? I don't see how it's possible to get like the full picture of how it is before you come here. So I would recommend coming and sort of scoping it out. So with the yoga jobs, a lot of times I see studio owners who get a little frustrated because people come, they really want the job, they fight for the job, and then after a little while, they might want to leave again. So if you want a job, in most places I've seen, they might hire you if you commit to stay a little longer time. Like here, we don't really have seasonal jobs offered at this studio. A lot of places will offer like a volunteer or seasonal job, so you can apply specifically for that. I think that there's definitely more yoga teachers than there are jobs. And a lot of yoga retreat places, they might host you if you bring your own group. So that's a good idea to do as well. You got to stick around and you got to really integrate, show them that you're dedicated to your own practice and come to class. And if they ask you to sub, just do it. And maybe after a while, that's how it happened for me. I taught for free. I taught a community class every week. And after about a year, it just happened to be open. And that's when I took the position.
Please remember to subscribe and click the bell so you'll be notified when the next video is up. Please give us a like and leave a comment. It helps support our channel so we can keep bringing you videos like this.